So you want to make a game kind of like Splatoon, where you paint the arena and it counts how many blocks are painted. I've got you covered. So to get started, I basically took the Snowball Landings data pack, which I made quite a while back. And what it does is it tracks where a snowball is landing. So we're going to rename this to SPLT since I already have a Splatoon data pack in here. We're going to go to Data, and everything will be fine here because I'll just use SP as the namespace in this case. And so then we're going to take a look at this data pack and what it does. So every tick, it basically looks for a snowball that has a item tag called SP ball. And then when it does it, it says it found the ball. And when it finds the ball, it spawns a new snowball, which is one that is said to be tracked, that has an area effect cloud riding it. And then every single tick, we look at that area effect cloud and see if it is still riding the snowball. And when it isn't riding the snowball, then you say that the snowball landed. And when it landed, you kill the area effect cloud and set a block to stone. So right off the bat, what we're going to do is we're going to delete all this and change it to a marker, just because it's a little bit more efficient as a marker. And then we're going to go into here and change this word to marker. And then we're going to go into the world. Then after we enable a pack, we're going to shoot it, and you're going to see that it drops a stone block wherever the snowball lands, or wherever it was last at before it popped. And so that kind of gives us the basis for making our paint. So we can go into here, and instead of setting stone, we can go fill around the snowball. So -3, -3, -3, to +3, +3, +3, and we can fill it to red wool, replacing white wool. And that's kind of a place for us to start. So when we hit reload, it's just going to paint that white wool, but it's not going to paint the blue wool. So what we're going to do is turn the blue wool into white wool. Now you could say, why not just do both in one command, but we'll get to why we need to do that later. All right, so this is kind of the basis of it. So now let's go ahead and add some conditions. So let's make it so you can have two different paintballs. So let's go into here, and let's go execute, and we're going to just look for a different tag on the snowball. So we'll see execute if entity at s mbt, and we're going to do another mbt check, and we're going to see if it has a red team, okay, or if it has a blue team tag. And then we're going to add a custom tag to the marker called blue, and a custom tag to the marker called red. And then inside here, we're going to go, before we kill it, execute if entity at s tag equals blue, run function sp paint blue, and then if it's red, you paint it red. And so we're going to make these new functions called paint red and paint blue. Okay, so inside paint blue and paint red, now we're going to just have these commands here and these commands here. So we'll change red wool to white and white wool to blue. Sorry. It is going to be white here and the word red here, just kind of inversed. And then here, blue here, and white here. Okay. So now inside the init function, we're going to do give clear at a snowball, give at a snowball with SP ball 1B and red 1B. So the first snowball will be the red paintball, and the next one will be the blue. Now, if you're doing Splatoon, you might not want these snowballs. It depends on how you're implementing the game. Maybe one of your weapons is a snowball, maybe one of your weapons is not a snowball. And you can kind of go and implement that, but we're just doing the snowball because this is a very simple example. And we're also going to be covering how to calculate the total paint in the room with the boss bar on the top. So if I shoot this one, it will paint any blue red as well. If I shoot this one, it will paint any red blue. So now we can basically paint our arena. But how much paint is there in the arena, like what you see on the right scoreboard? So I'm going to do scoreboard if you get this up to the sidebar and do boss bar set Splatoon visible false. so that you can't see that. Okay, so then inside the arena, we basically have a bunch of white wool. And how much white wool is there? Well, let's actually calculate that. So we're going to do fill from here up to the corner over here with white wool replacing wool. Okay, so that will reset the arena. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a function called reset, which will reset the arena. And this is where we use the execute store result command. So if first we switch the wool to something like stone, so now the entire arena will be stone, then we can use execute store result score dot whites spt run, and then we fill the white wool replacing the stone. And what this will do is it will basically count how many stones get replaced to white wool. And previously we said that all wool becomes stone. So every block that is supposed to have wool in it in the arena will become white wool, and it will tell you how many there are. And so we're going to go back into the init function and create a new scoreboard called spt. And then type /reload and put it on the sidebar. And so when we run /function spt reset, sp reset, it will say white 965. That's how many wools there are. Now if I put an extra white wool down and I run it again, it'll say 966. And so now we know how much wool in the arena is white, and now we kind of just need to keep track of how much is red and how much is blue. Okay, so how do we do that? It's going to be very similar to what we just did there, except with the actual colors. So when we're painting it white, what we're going to do is we're going to count how many blue wools turned into white wool. So we're going to change this to fill blue, and that is going to be how many blue wools turned into white wool. And then we're going to count how many white wools turned into red wool. So fill _ red. And now we need to kind of accumulate that. So we're going to do scoreboard players operation dot red spt plus equals dot fill red, which means you're adding how many red you just how much wool you just turned red, and then blue minus equals fill blue. And so this is removing any blue wool that used to be there. And so when you do this and you control it completely in your pack, then basically you're going to always know how much blue and red wool there will be. If you want to add another team, because Splatoon might have more than 2 teams, you basically just need to add an extra command here. So you do fill blue, fill green, and then fill red. So you're just going to have multiple of these commands. And you're going to have multiple of the subtractions. And so we change this to fill red, fill blue, and then red minus equals and blue plus equals. And so when I type /reload, you'll see on the sidebar when I shoot red, it will say there's 35 red, and now there is 86 red, and it will just keep going. But then as I shoot this, the red will go down and the blue will go up. So you can see red is back down to a low value, and it'll eventually reach 0 as I get all these out. There's still one red here somewhere. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. And now fill red. Now red is 0. And so that is how you kind of fill up an arena with red paint and blue paint and any amount of teams you want, and count how much of the blocks have changed, which is kind of an interesting application. It makes it a lot more efficient because you don't have to do some kind of big calculation at the end to figure out how much paint there is. So you can kind of count it as you go, which is nice. And you can also keep a running kind of tally at the top like I showed with the boss bar. And the way that I did that was basically I did a formula. I did red minus blue plus white divided by 2. And what that basically resulted in was if red and blue have the same amount of paint down, then you're at the middle point, 0.5. But if red is starting to win, then you're going to tilt towards 0 or towards 1. I think towards 1 if red is starting to win. And if blue is starting to win, you tilt towards 0. And if the full arena is red, then you will have 1. And if the full arena is blue, you will have 0 in this formula. And you can kind of do the little work for yourself. I'm not going to go through the extra effort to set up the boss bar, but you would use execute store results boss bar, the name of the boss bar, value, and then run scoreboard get. And you would basically just dynamically change the value and do a bunch of fancy stuff with if the score is greater than, change color. It's a bunch of extra filler commands that aren't super interesting in terms of their logic. Anyways, guys, if you thought this was useful and want to see more minigame type concepts, let me know. The download to this this entire world actually will be in the description. It's called Command Stuff 19. That's just because I was making it for other command stuff. So just ignore that. Maybe I'll rename it. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.